And the same thing with taking care of yourself. Now, that's incapacitated. And you could be incompetent as well, but basically incapacitated is you can't handle these things on your own. Incompetent means that you do not have the cognitive ability to recognize even who you are, where you live, or what it is that you need to be taken care of. Now, that has to do with, for instance, making a will. You could be incapacitated but still be competent to make a will. And the standard for that under the probate law is that you know who you are, you know what your estate is, you know that you own property, that you have financial accounts, you know the objects of your desire, meaning you know who your children are, you know who your brothers and sisters are, you know the people that you would ordinarily leave your estate to. And you know that you are leaving your estate, your house, your financial accounts to these people, these children, these grandchildren, whatever. So if you know those things, then you're competent to make a will. But you could still be incapacitated, meaning you could be bedridden and you could not even sign a will. You could direct someone else to sign it for you, or just put an X if you cannot sign your name.
Is that right?
So even though those terms are used interchangeably, there is a distinction. You could have both or one or the other. You could have, for instance, an elderly couple. The wife was bedridden, incapacitated. She could hardly move, but she was just sharp as a tack, knew everything. Her husband, unfortunately, was suffering from dementia, but he was physically strong. He could drive. He could do this. He could physically do things. And so the two of them made the perfect pair. She directed him as to what to do, and he would do it because he was physically capable of picking her up, moving her around, driving her here and there, but he did not have the competency in his own mind to make these decisions, where she did. And he was the muscle, she was the brains. And that was the perfect combination.
That would be. Now, all of this is administered under the probate courts system here in Horry County. Of course, we had Judge Didra Edmonds with us a couple of months ago. We were filming in the Judicial Center there in Conway, the magnificent administration facility there. And of course,
it's great, yes.
A lot of this, and people hear that. We've got about 5 minutes, Jay. Probate administration is critical, and clearly the office or the probate court has a lot of administration. What exactly is probate for viewers who hear that term and just don't know what it means?
Probate basically is the court enforcing that a person's last wishes are carried into effect and to make sure that everything in the estate is handled appropriately.
Okay, good.
So basically, if someone has a will, the court ensures that the wishes in the will are carried out. If someone does not have a will, then they are deemed to be intestate, and then there's a state law system to set up as to who will inherit from that person. So the court oversees that the appropriate people inherit from that person, and that the estate is properly managed, and that the debts and expenses are properly paid.
Is it often that people die without a will, Jay? Is that a common thing or very irregular?
It happens more often than you would think.
Is that right?
For instance, people might get divorced, and so their will is no longer any good as to the spouse. It would be as to children, but it does happen. But a lot of times you don't necessarily have to have a will. If you are married and don't have any children, then the law says your spouse will inherit from you.
Would inherit everything?
Yeah, and that's ordinarily what you do in a will anyway, unless you wanted to leave something to some charity or someone else. Or if you died and were not married, but you only had children, the state law says it goes to your children.
That's great.
And so that's what you would do with a will anyways. So for people in those positions, it doesn't matter if they have a will, because that's going to happen anyway.
Very good point. So the administration of a will, or that someone dying intestate, still has to all come through the probate court.
Yes, it does. However, you can leave your estate in various ways without going through probate. And the most common way is to set up joint ownership.
Okay.
For instance, if you have joint ownership of a bank account with your spouse, it automatically goes to your spouse. Now, there are different types of joint ownership of real estate, but if you have joint ownership with right of survivorship, the moment you die, it goes to your spouse. If you have joint ownership of various bank accounts or other properties with your children, the moment you die, it goes automatically to them. So you can set up your entire estate to where everything passes the moment of your death without anything going to probate whatsoever. You can set it up that way.
Right.
And of
Jay,
course,
real quick, you've got tremendous knowledge here, and obviously this is a non-commercial show, but if a viewer wanted to learn more and just wanted to have some idea of what you're talking about in a more formal or an informal setting, would you be willing to let them call you? Or
oh, sure, absolutely.
You feel comfortable? What's the best number for someone to call?
My office number is 626-2006.
Okay, 843-626-2006.
That's it.
Didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going there. I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to plug that. And it is a non-commercial show, but this is clearly important. And if you can't answer it, you'll get them in touch with the probate court or somewhere else.
Yes. One of the things that I'm also involved in is I'm on the advisory committee to Judge Edmonds, the probate court advisory committee. I sit on that committee. And one of the things that we've tried to work on is setting up, working towards a website for the probate court, the local probate court.
Great.
And to make sure that people have access to basic information like how do these things work.
Right.
And so all of us are dedicated towards, informing the public and assisting the public in trying to get these things done.
That's a volunteer position
It is.
for you.
It is.
That's
yes.
great. There's other great folks in the committee, I'm sure.
In fact, Judge Edmonds volunteered me to give a lecture and a seminar coming up for attorneys on various probate matters. So
well, it sounds
I
like
think
you're
it's
very
because I was
knowledgeable.
late for a meeting that I walked in and she says, Jay, I've got you to give a lecture on the final accounting in the probate administration. I said, oh, great.
That's great.
Thanks
Good.
a lot.
That's a great way to go, absolutely, to not only be volunteering, but to be volunteered for.
I didn't want to tell her that, I just usually turn it over to my secretary, Judy, and let her do it.
Well, you do have great support staff there.
Yes.
So if someone called in and you're not there, they'd either reach Judy or possibly even Betty. Possibly even
Barbara.
Barbara, excuse me.
Yes.
Barbara, exactly.
Yes.
To see Barbara there in the office.
Now, most things are set up over there in the probate court where most people can handle very simple estates by themselves.
Right, right.
And but sometimes things do get complicated.
Right.
And there can be certain little tricks that you might want to watch out for,
right.
like when you have the real estate appraised.
Right.
In probate, there's what's known as a stepped-up basis in the value of the property.
Okay.
And so if you think that the property will soon be sold, or, then you may want to go with the lower basis in the property, the tax-assessed value, which would give you a lower value.
Right.
And so you have less capital gains to pay. But if you think that you want your children to inherit this property, then you want to have it appraised for the full maximum value that you can get away with, so that the basis gets carried over to the children, and then if they sell the property for a little bit more, the same amount, then there's practically zero capital gains or very little capital gains. So there's little tricks like that that an attorney can help you out with in managing an estate.
Very important point, and something that everyone wants to know, of course, not to circumvent any of the authorities, the IRS or otherwise, but to do it just so that they have a proper opportunity to make sure to understand the values within their estate and exactly what they should be and could be going forward. Very important. And attorneys, of course, they're not accountants, but oftentimes, and sometimes they are, but they still can give some great basic advice. You do encourage folks, I'm sure, to use accountants.
Yes.
And you work hand in hand with them?
Yes. In larger estates, I actually retain an accountant to work with us.
Sure.
Yeah, they handle the estate returns, the tax returns, and that sort of thing. And we digest and provide them with the information that they need.
Absolutely.
And then they help us out with the final accounting. But typically, the attorney will do the final accounting with the assistance of a CPA.
That is tremendous, Jay. Golly, you think about so many activities for you. What's been the best part of getting active with the probate court system and getting active here?
Well, first of all, I've gotten to know Judge Edmonds and her staff very well, and they're wonderful people over there, and that is a pleasure. And also the other attorneys in this area that are on the committee, getting to know them well too, and we are all working together with the same goal. And so we've developed this camaraderie, and I can pick up the phone at any time and call another attorney and say, hey, I've got this problem, what do you think? Right. Or I've had other attorneys call me up and say, Jay, I've got this problem, what do you think?
Right.
And so we can work together on these things. Or if I know of another attorney who has a particular expertise in a certain background, say Alan Jeffcoat, for instance, is on the committee as well. He does a lot of real estate and business matters. I may say to someone, well, this involves a lot of real estate, a lot of business matters.
Right.
I think that maybe Alan could better help you out with this because of those particular issues.
That's great.
And so I've enjoyed that aspect of it, you know, when you get to work with your colleagues like that.
I love it.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Good words, good things. Sorry we've run out of time, Jay. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Very welcome. It's my
a real
pleasure.
treat. Stay tuned to a little more with Jay Bultz, local attorney, coming up next. Whether he's serving as the vice chair of the Downtown Redevelopment Corporation or on the Probate Court Advisory Committee, he's serving. Whether he's serving families or even serving other attorneys and helping wrap up lectures about how to wrap up estates, he's serving. He fits that role very well. S could be his middle name. Service fits in very well for Jay Bultz. He's making a difference every day. He wants to provide this information, whether it's guardianships or conservatorships or how to deal in the probate court system. It's a real opportunity. Give him a call, 843-626-2006, 626-2006. Find out about some of the other tremendous activities he's involved in, as well as Camp Happy Days and their tremendous involvement in the community. Jay Bultz, thanks so much for everything you do.
My pleasure, Greg.
Very definitely.